Hello everyone, my name is Winged Supernova and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. You guys probably thought that I was low-key canceling this because I haven't uploaded for it in a month, and well, I've had a rough month. Lots of things have happened. Haven't had much time or effort on my part to record, but for the first time in a while, today I have a golden opportunity to do so. I'm in the right mental mindset to do it. So here it is, and I'm still going to record it, and I'm at least going to finish this game. We'll talk in future parts about other games that have caught my attention that I might play on here, but yeah, for now, let's just keep going with this. We were, in the last part, I believe, we had just finished the investigation for episode 2, and we're going into the trial. Even though the fact that I didn't think we'd investigated very much. So yeah, let's see what we can do in the trial this time. It is 8:50 a.m. here, so we'll see. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all the time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. I don't know who that is. That's my line! I'm gonna go ahead and say it's Soseki. Yep. Good morning! Good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this! Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole! Can't keep coming to court! I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. That was awkward. Judicial Assistant Miss Mikotoba Esquires! What's the bad news? Oh dear, you heard, did you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say! Oh, I am sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Miss Usato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Baroque Van Zeeks. Van Zeeks? Ah! Oh no! Oh no, no! The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth. We managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter, after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zeeks is the prosecutor. Oh no! That even if that person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another. And we've experienced it firsthand. Yeah, at this point they don't know what the truth of that case was. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. Ah, do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper. Pair of petrifying perils, potentially! Well, if it's potentially... At least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire! Yes? I'm innocent. You have to believe me. You, more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Ooh. Well... The trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. Oh, yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. Oh? That's probably for the best. Oh! If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zeeks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Well said. You know, I understand. It's like part of his character. But personally, I don't understand adding like 3 more difficult to pronounce words to someone's name. Like, doesn't that just drag things out? Isn't it harder to say? Oh boy. I swear at the sword on my side, the sword at my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free, with honor. Oh, yes! Well. In we go. Oh boy. I see some familiar faces in the gallery there. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zeeks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in the courtroom, though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Well, this is my thought on that whole thing. I'm pretty sure he probably has some beef with the Asogi clan. Kazuma's the only Asogi that we've met, which means he's not a good representation of his entire clan, to be honest. And he probably heard, oh, Asogi is coming over and is going to act as a defense lawyer in court. And he's like, I will take my revenge. Probably something like that. But because he died on the way over here, we had to be in his place, so he's kind of putting it on us instead. Especially considering that we said that we were taking up Asogi's mantle and that we were carrying his spirit with us in the sword that is at his side. So that's interesting. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Every single time that they say random, it's just the same fucking people. Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before. I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually. Oh, you're new. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public, and that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. Would you like to know more about the about the jury system so that I can describe it in 10 lines of text here? Because we don't know if you've played the second game before you played the first one. Oh boy. 6 citizens of London chosen at random, or at least that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Where possible. So pretty much it's the same 6, except they replaced, I mean, the person who was technically guilty for the stabbing in the last one. Yeah, they replaced her as a juror for this one. I don't remember her last name. Very well, let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zieks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. Accused himself. Oh boy. I gotta do this voice again. Witnesses, state your names and occupations, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Ah, Soseki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student, to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume? Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I've not mistaken that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough. Oh, believe me, this is the last place I want to be. Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. My voice seems good today. The incident occurred at the Gary Deb household where the defendant has lodgings. Well, there it is. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine. Is that how you pronounce that? Strychnine? I actually don't know my poisons. Probably for the best. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspected something was wrong, broke down the door. I do think I've heard of strychnine, though. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell tale, he very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. Well, you kind of just let him sit there, too, without checking his pulse or whether he was alive or dead. You were just like, this is a dead guy. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord, and I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked. I'm sure that stain on the left is probably going to come into play at some point, especially since it's right under that locked gas box. And you've also got the hole in the wall that's been patched up by a board. That's also weird. But yeah, we'll have to see. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well. I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. The crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes. Yes? As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture? They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits. Good gracious, what's haunted? My lodgings. There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me! What about me? I've very nearly been killed countless times. Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on that fateful night it happened. When I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me. You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Nott. Thanks, Judge. Thanks for the lesson in fire safety. I'm sure that's what we were talking about here. But it's so cold, my running nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. Well, in a hole right off the bat, I guess. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Well, no wonder you're fucking cold, Soseki. It's winter in London, and you're walking around wearing those wooden sandals that I see traditional Japanese wear for certain festivals and events and things like that. I don't know what they're called, but yeah, the wooden sandal platform shoes. But he's got no fucking socks on. What the hell? Order! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation? That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water, especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never! The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before. Yeah, that's actually interesting. So there's only a limited number of places where the water could have come from. That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection? None whatsoever, my lord. Good, then you will give your account of the events on the night in question to the court now. Yes, my lord! Stop getting so worked up, Mr. Natsume. It'll be fine. Also, why the hell are your pupils so weird? I keep pointing this out. And it looks like his eyebrows have been, like, scribbled on in crayon or some shit. They're so weird. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. My tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Okay. You know, I have to wonder if this was like an attempted poisoning on Mr. Natsume. And he fucked up and poured the tea, well, he put the poison in the wrong teacup, and he ended up drinking it himself. I mean, that's just one possibility. Who knows? Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they?
Why didn't I think of that? I don't know, why didn't you think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect substance? That's a tongue twister. Suspect substance. Fuck. I already screwed it up. How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. Oh? The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea. Not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left. Not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. I see. Thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. How about no? What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. But I can't let them beat me down. I won't. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Here we go. First the cross-examination in a month. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. Hold it! Hold it? Were you and your neighbor good friends then? No, we weren't friends. Not at all. Not at all. Never, ever. Well, that was a short one. A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit? Mr. Shakespeare fancies himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together. Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature. That's the most racist thing you've said in a while. And on the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume. It was the day of my last trial when I was acquitted. I'd just arrived back at my lodgings when I ran into Mr. Shakespeare outside on the street. That was at around 6 o'clock. We exchanged 1 or 2 pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though, so I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No, not one, not two, not any, not at all. Never, ever.
A simple no would have sufficed, I feel.
Then tell the court what did happen when you visited the victim's room. Okay. I'm not sure where to attack this, so I'm just gonna do the normal thing to get back into this and press. A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? A very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. Oh yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet? Who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley. Romeo and Juliet? Who was stronger? I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out in a Greco-Roman style, naturally. What does that mean? You wrestled? What? Mr. Shakespeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for just such a contest. So when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He as Romeo, I as Juliet, and after a vigorous wild... I don't want to know. I don't want to visualize that. I as Juliet came out on top. A victory I'll cherish forever. I dare not imagine... That's the wrong voice. I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct? I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I'd heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see. It's true. There was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless. Of course it was. And do you have any basis for that statement, witness?
Hold it!
Oh boy. Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume? Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it. The landlord was able to verify that as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how was the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector? When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker.
Yes, Mr. Garrideb seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants.
There's only one key to Mr. Shakespeare's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside his room. The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes. So I'm right. My tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take that poison, you die. Everyone knows that. It's not that simple, I'm afraid. What do you mean? Yeah, I want to know more about strychnine here, so definitely pressing this. How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. Oh, asphyxiation, huh? Huh. Because Soseki said that he felt like he was being strangled to death. Interesting. Here's my question though. Why do they think it's strychnine? Again? Because you don't have anything... I'm guessing they had to have done a medical test on the victim, right? In order to ascertain that strychnine was in his system? Weird. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seems to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure.
Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful.
It was the third time. In, what, 7 cases? 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left.
You can't deny that, and it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi.
I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence. And I will add that to my memory as information.
Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms.
Well, let's check it ourselves before she spells it out for us. Alright, William Shamspeare, 31. Cause of coma. Ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. The poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. Huh? Poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on 21st of February, assessed from the victim's pocket watch that appears to have broken when the man collapsed after the delayed onset of symptoms. So this is, I think that popped up in case 1 of Justice for All? Right, with the police officer that fell? Oh no, that wasn't a watch that broke and told the time. It was his glasses, right? Well, I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I played that or watched someone play it. No container for the poison was found at the scene. Interesting. Great. Ah, so they don't spell it out for you. Yeah, that's true. Is it this one where it says the argument still stands? The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. We'll press it. We'll press it just in case. The argument still stands, you say? This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on. Exactly! Oh, me and my tea are innocent! Sweet and innocent, I tell you! I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you did that, Mr. Shamspeare could have locked the door after you'd gone. But no! We drank the tea straight away! The battle over whether Romeo and Juliet was stronger, that came after the tea! Do you have any evidence to support that statement? In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying, drink tea while it's hot! Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in this matter. No! Alright. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo. Of course, go ahead. Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently, yet Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating. I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think. I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty. As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. Let's listen carefully to this testimony again. Yes. Okay. Well, I think the only thing that I want to contradict is the argument still stands. I'm going to do the save thing. Of course, yeah, we'll just do this. It's fine. Okay. We'll do the save thing right there. And then we're gonna present the medical.
Objection!
Okay, yep. Good. The argument still stands, you say? I think not, Inspector. Come again? I think you'll find that you've been overlooked a very significant chronological inconsistency here. Fuck! I can't speak this morning. Chrono what? What are you on about? According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Ugh! Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Oh my god, they did the same fucking thing. That was so freaky. The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zeeks? I've already thought of about a couple ways that they could counter this. It's not a very foolproof argument. Because the only thing that we have for confirming that he returned to his room at 11 was the lamp turning on and off. Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hollowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend here appears to be chasing a phantom idea. Fucking Christ, dude. I'm losing it, and it's only been 36 minutes. A phantom? Is it so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? For example, at the time stated in the medical report. Yes, at around 1:30. Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. And in Japan, there is a well-known saying... Don't do this! Drink tea while it's on fucking... That's so dumb. And in my country, there is an even more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, counsel? Someone else came from outside and joined Shamspear in his room. Yeah, there you go. Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend, from someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or, the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. You suggest this may have been a suicide, counsel? Not a suicide, an attempted suicide, because he's still alive. Mr. Shamspear has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted. Oh, that's not good. But he could be lying. Is something wrong, Lord Van Zeeks? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived. Hello? Oh, Shamspear's here. Okay.
Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Who, sir, are you?
William Shamspear, my lord. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim.
What's he doing here? A nice staff. The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him as a witness? Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself.
Happy I am, happy am I, Shamspeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord.
But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence, in perfect English.
I think that is pretty talented, to be able to speak in perfect English. Especially at this time period when there probably isn't very many textbooks to create the translation between Japanese and English. Ooh, that'd be rough.
That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim.
Okay. Got another... Oh, who the fuck are you? You're the guy from outside. Alright, so that's Mr. Shamspeare. But who's that other man beside him?
Yes, I feel sure we've caught a glimpse of him before.
State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. Yeah, these two were the ones that were outside Soseki's apartment building, the Garadeb residence. They were outside of it in case, was it 4? Yeah, case 4 of the last game, and I pointed it out, and I was like, who the fuck are these two? Or when are we gonna learn who these two are? I was like, okay, I'll just throw it into case 2 of this game.
A writer of words so sweet, they do scent the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound, they compose the earth. The unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare, were the great bard to be recalled to life anew. Lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shamspeare.
Oh, the name's Meterman. Adron B. Meterman. I work for the Altamont Gas Company, East End Branch Office.
Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road.
Oh, yes. She's right. It's him. Why did he run away, though? Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me, could we have a word?
Ah!
Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garadeb's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case?
So, Mr. William Shakespeare, or Shamspeare, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct?
Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that didst cross me and cross mine innocent lips.
Cross me and cross mine? What? Why would you... Okay, that seems like you're saying the same thing twice.
I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure.
Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me is a seraph, an angel indeed.
I hate you. I already hate him.
Thus be I of noble mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be.
Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all.
The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid.
Really? They're actually taking the serif anagram idea seriously?
Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions.
But, my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamspeare doing here? The gas man, I mean.
What? Me? Well, now... Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence? When you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question. And moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar.
What? No, I didn't quite say that.
This young chin-stroker is here to controvert your wild claims, conclusively. Is that not so, Mr. Meterman? Hang on, no, I'm just here.
Oh, Interesting. He seems at odds with Van Zieks.
You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question.
One may smile, and be a villain.
Why did you say the same thing twice? This is why I don't like Shakespeare.
Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken, the truth of that wintry night of my discontent.
The wintry night of my discontent.
The snow lay about, my neighbour did cometh in the evening bearing a gift of tea. But marry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, naught else.
I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed Eastern fella.
That's suspicious as fuck. Why were you staring at his room? Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shamspeare's room all night?
That's right. Of course, the bloke's window is all but blocked up, isn't it? There's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered through that.
Why? That's so bizarre. The question is, sir, why?
Well now, that's because he's on my list.
What are you, Santa?
What a piece of work is a man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment?
What are you talking about?
This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed. Make no more ado about his tedious words.
Why does he look like a bumblebee with that pack? I'm sure that's like the intention, but it looks fucking weird. Also, what is that patch that's on it? It's like blue and it has flowers? I feel like that might have something to do with something. Oh, he's also got a version of it, it looks like, on his jacket as well. Interesting.
What did you say about me? Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more.
Indeed, that is so.
And as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime.
Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Probably not. Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. This will be an incredibly short case if this is the last one and we get everything. The wintry night of my discontent. Oh boy. Oh, oops, I forgot. Alright, let's go back. Press. To be clear, by neighbor, you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume?
Oh, indeed, sire. Perchance thou wouldst that I call him the man from upstairs?
And at what... That's the wrong... Dude, I fucking failed twice right there.
And at what time did the mustachioed Nipponese visit you in your room?
Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo, did he come, to tender a gift of fragrant tea.
Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes.
And we were broiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before.
By which I presume he means...
Their discussion about who was the stronger, Romeo or Juliet? I, Shakespeare, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbour played the fair Juliet. Each of us dressed as would our characters be, to bring weight upon our merry experiment.
I dare not imagine the scene.
Frailty, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I had heard of the Eastern art of jujitsu, but... ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practiced by the comely maiden.
Juliet beat Romeo up? That is not helping our case. No, He witnessed a Susato takedown and he wanted to try it himself. Oh boy.
I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debate. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room?
My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding. But marry, bitter was his drink.
Well, let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time. If the defendant had really put the poison in your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain.
Gladly. 'Tis an easy task.
What?
I did drink of the tea, not while my guest didst tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour post midnight, verily were my lips parched.
That doesn't sound normal.
Nay, 'tis quite ordinary, sire, after all. Thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amidst such argument there'd be no time for fiery tea.
Romeo and Juliet again, and who was stronger?
Mr. Shamspeare, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker?
But of course, my liege. 'Twas the stooped lover of words did attempt to shuffle me off of this mortal coil.
Ugh, we all know what that means. That's a specific statement. So, you didn't have any kind of evening meal? Dinner? Supper?
Ha! Fie on luxury, fie on gluttony. To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time.
Sorry.
I would that my belly were full, no more oft than the sun doth rise.
Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say.
Night and day do I fill my hours with learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence is it that there doth not in my chamber be than the costumes of the mine art.
I fucking hate Old English. It's so hard to read. Christ. That would be... No, that's the wrong voice. Fuck. I'm just struggling today. I'm just having a big struggle.
That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room.
Now that I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere. For I have devoured them all.
You've eaten them?
Every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise?
Right. That wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think?
Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea.
Oops, didn't mean to click there. I was trying to... It's a habit of mine to hit A when visual novel text is going, so that it like skips to the end of it so I can read it all, because I kind of read a little bit fast. But the windows of that house have all been filled in.
A historical artifact of the now defunct window tax.
Yeah, you're right there, all bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking through that gap.
Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there?
And for some strange reason, a couple bars of soap lined up on the ledge outside as well.
I don't like going around poking my chin into other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. But them's my orders, so that's what I'll keep doing. As long as there's breath in my body.
What's with all the theatricals today?
Out of interest, Mr. Meterman, after the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all?
No, he never left.
He was in that room the whole time, as far as I'm concerned. And we can therefore discount the possibility of suicide.
How can you be sure of that?
The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. And since we know the victim didn't leave his room and hence didn't dispose of the poison's container himself, it's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle.
But there's a hole in the... Okay. There's a hole in the window. It could have passed it out to Meterman.
Ah, yes. Lucidly explained, Counsel. Thank you.
It really was. You can't argue with the logic. Yeah, you can.
Hold it!
You say a short little round-backed Eastern fella, so you can't be sure it was the defendant then.
Objection! How many other short little round-backed Nipponese with a mustache do you think there are in London?
He never said with a mustache, though.
Well, of course, it's only a narrow gap and it was quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. But he showed up at around 9, so I'm pretty sure of that myself.
And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shamspear drink tea together?
Nah, sorry, I couldn't say.
Why not?
Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? But what I did see was the silhouette of that little round-backed fellow wearing a pretty dress. Then the pair of them started some kind of wrestling match, I tell you. I didn't know what to make of it.
I suppose. That was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway.
Mr. Meterman, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question. Gasman's honor.
Oh. We have another hold it. After the pressing of everything. Oh. You.
My lord! Goodness me. Yes, Mr. Foreman. I've kept my mouth shut and listened up to now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me?
Yes!
Are we to understand that you ladies and gentlemen of the jury are in agreement with one another? That you've reached a unanimous decision? Too right we have. Are you all with me?
Yes!
Wait, no! The defense is in the middle of a cross-examination!
To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you identified those few hours that followed the accused leaving the victim's room.
Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it.
But in the end, what difference do they make?
None, as far as I can see. And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer.
Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow a top.
What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said.
Very well, let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Boom. Yay, we got a summation examination.
All of you?
Well, it would appear that the jury is indeed unanimous. So, this time at least, it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished.
Get up, Mr. Naruhodo, please! The trial isn't over yet.
What do you mean, Mr. Sato?
What about the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? That obscure right that belongs to the defense. You know, we have to explain this, right? Because we don't know if you've played the first game or not.
Yes, let's do the summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course, but here in a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Why am I not surprised at my learned Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend instead of accepting the truth.
Certainly no other defense counselor in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination.
Because they all know that once the jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered.
Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. This court will proceed with the summation examination, as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law.
Thank you, my lord.
Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman?
Believe me, my lord, we know all about this young lad's tenacity, and we're ready for it.
Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused.
And we will find out what those reasons are in the next episode, because this has gotten to an hour long, and this is a good place to stop. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Welcome back. Well, I'm going to be making these episodes about the same length that they were before, hour long, every other day, that sort of stuff. So, yeah. I'll see you guys in the next part when we take on the jury in this summation examination and hopefully gain a couple pieces of information that can help us refute the claims towards our defendant. See you guys then.